Welcome to the Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Rocco.
Yes, you are. Welcome to another Wednesday and an all-original bonus episode. This week, we discuss a recent interview with Paul Stanley. This article comes from guitarplayer.com, written by Andrew Daly and published on May 24th. Have you had a chance to read the article?
I have. It's not a very long article, but it definitely tells you some stuff. Like I think I was telling you before, like where Gene is kind of downplaying this whole Kiss Storms Vegas thing. Paul seems a little bit excited, and he's like kind of throws out teasers like there's a lot more stuff to come, and you know, it looks like Paul's a little more upbeat, and it seems like they're completely on opposite ends of what's going on, what's going to be going on down there.
Absolutely true. I'm going to read the article and we'll see how long it takes for something interesting to come up in the article.
All right.
In late March 2025, it was announced that KISS would be storming Vegas. People weren't sure what that meant at first, other than a version or perhaps a partial version of KISS, probably with founders and forever holdovers Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons performing at the event. Soon after KISS Army Storms Vegas was announced, onlookers found out that it was, in fact, true, and that Stanley and Simmons would be performing. But not only that, no, but that they'd be doing so without their trademark kabuki makeup. And as is always the case when KISS does anything, the rumors began to swirl.
Ain't that the truth?
Ain't that the truth? And the reactions began to swell. Such is life within the world of KISS. In recent weeks, Simmons has made it clear in interviews that no, KISS won't necessarily be performing a whole set. And no, this is not KISS doubling back on their promise to get off the road, an era which ended on December 2nd, 2023 at New York's Madison Square Garden. Now, we have addressed this multiple times, and I don't know about you, but I never thought that. I paid attention, and although Paul and Gene did kind of change their messaging throughout the end of the road tour, by the time they were towards the end of the road tour, the messaging was, we are retiring as a touring band
Correct.
in makeup with costumes and the whole stage show. I never took it like, hey, we're retiring, we're not coming back. Like, I know it's been reported, and to piggyback off of the episode of a couple weeks ago, like, it's clickbait, and the media, and by the, I mean, it's 2025, by the media, that could be anywhere from a podcast like us to a YouTube channel also like us, but we try not to do that shit, to major media, Blabbermouth, Loudwire, guitarplayer.com. But all of these media outlets, I think, are spinning this clickbait to whoop up the fan base on a constant basis. Like, and I never took it that way. So I don't know where any of it's coming from.
How long have they done stuff together? I would imagine, even though they get on each other's nerves, they probably miss each other. They miss doing stuff together on stage.
Paul and Gene?
I'm serious. I mean, it's just I could be completely off base, but I mean, they've been on stage off and on for the last 50 years. I would imagine, I mean, Gene's still on stage, but I would imagine at some point they miss playing with each other.
I don't know. It's an interesting question that I don't think, with all the media that Paul and Gene do, I don't think anybody's like pinpoint ask that question. Hey,
Hmm.
Paul, do you miss playing with Gene? Hey, Gene, do you miss playing with Paul?
It's an interesting question.
It is. Okay, and now the conversation with Kiss's star child. He has weighed in, clarifying with outright simplicity, which he was pretty simplistic about it, what Kiss's forthcoming Vegas shindig actually is. Let's just call it a Kiss cruise, Stanley says, but landlocked in Vegas. I'm pretty sure we all knew that was kind of the idea with
Hmm.
it. Within that context, the idea of Stanley, Simmons, and company climbing up on stage as Kiss without makeup isn't a state of the art idea. Historically, Kiss cruises throughout their 12-year existence, as per the name, have always featured performances by Kiss without makeup. They've also always featured a roster of bands and artists ranging from Kiss alumni such as Bruce Kulick, who will be in Vegas come November, current members of the band like Tommy Thayer, who will be with Stanley and Simmons in Vegas, and Ace Frehley, who, much to the chagrin of the Kiss Army, will not. I still don't believe that's
I
written
don't
in
believe it either.
stone. I just don't believe it's written in stone. Like, who will not?
They, I forget
Maybe
where I saw it, but they had the statement where they will always be up. There will always be an invite, but they didn't put the fine print on our terms. There'll always be an invite. They'll always be welcome, but on, you know what I mean? Like that's the unwritten added part of that. Like as long as they're not coming in demanding every all kinds of stuff, which I don't think that's in them to not demand stuff if they're going to be there.
at least to me, it seems like Ace and Peter think they're equal or are demanding to be equal. If I was Ace Frehley, I would demand more money than Sebastian Bach and Black and Blue. But you're not, and I don't know that this is happening, but if you're Ace Frehley, I don't think you get to go to Gene Simmons and go, hey, how much are you getting paid to be here? Oh, I'm getting 500,000. I want 500,000. No, you don't. I mean, I said it last week. No, you gave up that right when you quit. You gave up that right when you sold all your rights. Like, they should be compensated for their appearance. But you know, you don't you don't get compensated the same. You can't do Kiss Army Storms Vegas without Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley.
You can't.
But
No.
you can do it without Ace Frehley and Peter Criss.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's that line. Like I really do believe there's a point where they all can coexist, but there's a line that anytime they go around that line, it gets muffled and they can't make it work.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we're lucky we got the reunion out of all four. But again, there's always that window because if they say they're not going now and all of a sudden they spring it on you, it becomes a bigger event.
absolutely. The article goes on. Elsewhere, the cruises have featured all sorts of period correct acts, and to that end, Kiss Army Storms Vegas will be no different. Still, Kiss's ranks are part of an ever evolving beast populated by career rule breakers. To that end, there's more to be announced when it comes to this impending Vegas shebang. There's so much yet to come, Stanley says. And we're not any other band. We don't live by those rules, and I think that's a double edged sword. Well, I would agree.
Yeah, I would agree.
It makes people love us and it makes other people despise us, Stanley says. And that's good. I judge myself by the people who love me and by the people who hate me. Okay, it kind of fits Paul's personality.
100%. Yeah.
The interviewer asks, what's the story behind Kiss Army Storms Vegas? Paul responds, well, there's going to be some really exciting changes that enhance what it already is. Let's face it, it's what we've spent 12 years building and really polishing. which is the KISS cruise. But does a KISS cruise really need to be on a boat? Everything that we do on a KISS cruise can take place virtually in any place. Look,
Well, I've
this to me is a very good business move, whoever made the decision. Because have you ever been on a cruise ship?
I was just going to tell you, like I've been asked many times I could have gone on a cruise ship to a lot of different places, but I don't want to. The thought of being stuck on a boat that and being sick.
I've never been on a cruise ship. I've heard from a bunch of people that it's great. You know, you hear the same thing. It's
Hmm.
great. You don't even know you're on a boat.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But the point that I'm trying to make is in theory, if you sell out a Kiss cruise, and I believe the Kiss cruises, they had to at least all sell well because they did 12 of them.
And it wasn't cheap.
No, I think it was more expensive than this is in Vegas. But if you can get all those people to get on a cruise boat, you probably could get more to not get on a cruise.
Mm.
But, I guess time will tell.
Not from the start. Actually, it was a really cool concept. You know, a Kiss fans, taking over a cruise. The concept was really cool.
I don't think it was their idea. That's, there's Monsters of Rock cruise. There's a
Mm.
lot of cruises. I don't know what came first, but I know there's a
The
lot
chicken.
there. No, I think it was the egg. But so the interviewer goes on. So there's even bigger news with regard to the event to come. Paul responds, I think everybody is going to be very excited, whether it's the KISS Army, the Navy, the cruisers, or fans in general. It's turning into something that everybody has loved and that we've nurtured over the last 12 years. So I'm looking forward to it. More will be coming shortly, and I think all the announcements are going to make everybody that much more excited. Now, first, unless I miss something, which I could miss lots of things. In all the interviews, Gene has never brought up the cruise, and Paul can't seem to put it down
Mm.
in this interview. He just keeps going back to the cruise. Second thing is he's saying at least what I had hoped, because when you come out and you announce three of the four current or last lineup of Kiss, whichever way you want to go at it. And although I think Sebastian Bach is good, I haven't seen Sebastian Bach since he was with Skid Row.
He put out a new song, relatively recent.
Did he?
Yeah, it's not bad. I forget the name of it, but I probably within the last year did.
Well, he's got a new album out. He's got a
Yeah,
new full album, and it's pretty good actually. But um, the bringing Black and Blue on, I think, is ingenious and great idea. I think the two um,
tribute.
tribute bands, I think that's a great idea
Hmm.
too.
I do too.
But that ain't anywhere near enough.
Well, you
Especially,
got me like reading that article, and there's definitely something going on with Eric Singer. Either he's like done with them. There's definitely something going on because I that was the first thing I noticed when I read the article.
the interviewer asks, when you put it into perspective, performing in this fashion, as you've done on Kiss cruises, isn't new per se. So you must have had to laugh when everyone got the idea that this was the proper live return of Kiss. Paul responded, I'm flattered by suppositions or any ideas that people have, but they often go way deeper than reality. Well, that's the truth. The Kiss cruises have been something that everybody has loved, including us. And again, the lack of a ship this year doesn't mean the lack of a cruise, you know? It's really not down to its location. What we're going to do is going to be very, very exciting. And quite frankly, it has us that much more excited. When everybody reads, sees, and hears about what's going on, as far as the new announcements, I think everybody is going to be very excited. Paul is teasing the
Yeah,
hell out of something that isn't out yet.
they're playing good cop, bad cop
Yeah, but
in a way. It's kind of because Gene's going in one direction, he's going in the other.
I feel like they're not doing it on purpose. I do, and let me continue before I say the next part. But the interviewer asks, "You must be excited about getting back on stage with Gene and Tommy." That's a that's a huge red flag for
Mm-hmm.
me right there.
Me too.
Paul responds, as far as playing live, other than either somebody who is deaf or somebody who decides that they vehemently don't like the band, this was a shock for me. Gene is a phenomenally ferocious and creative bass player. If anyone out there in the Hooligan
Mm.
Nation can point me in the direction where Paul has given Gene that much credit in the past
Wow.
publicly, please point me in the right direction because I think that that is the nicest thing that Paul has ever said about Gene, at least publicly.
Yo, I read that, but I didn't, I kind of glazed over. I didn't really get, and you saying it that, it was like, whoa, that is pretty powerful
Phen-
stuff.
Phenomenally ferocious and creative. He goes on, and I certainly miss the camaraderie on stage and with Tommy. It's going to be exciting. I look more and more forward to it as we polish the diamond, so to speak. Paul Stanley! I'm going to ask the question that every Kiss fan wants to know.
Do it.
Where is Eric Singer? I can't believe that I'm sitting here by choice on our podcast and I am pining for Eric Singer.
But you know what though?
And I think more than Peter Chris.
He's making it obvious that like he's making you have to question it because you're naming two of the members out of the four. Like, why would you not mention Eric?
I
I mean, it's
I
obvious.
I
Like,
mean,
why would you, unless the interviewer got it wrong and there's something missing, omission in the thing by accident?
oh
I
come
mean, why would
on.
you not mention? I know, I'm saying, but why would you not mention Eric
I,
if you're not trying to like goad people?
the twists and turns in the Kiss universe seem to never ever end.
Do me a
It's
favor, just give Eric a call. Let's clear this up.
I dude, if I could give Eric a call, I would have absolutely no problem with calling him and just be, hey, you don't know me and I'm nobody, but what the hell is going on?
Attention hooligans, if any of you out there know Eric Singer, please reach out to him. Let's get some information from him so we know what's going on.
I mean, if it and this is not just to Paul. This is for Paul, Gene, and Pop House. If there's an issue, get in front of the issue. Like, oh, well, I really like playing with Eric also, but Eric hasn't signed yet.
Well,
Okay,
remember,
that's good right there. I mean, I find it, I look, I said this in a couple episodes ago. It may very well be the first quote unquote bad business move in a long time by Paul and Gene, but I cannot believe that they retired from touring and did not sign Eric and Tommy to a personal services
that's what I
contract.
was gonna. That's where I was going.
And it appears to me,
There's no way to find that information out.
no, it's I'm I don't know.
I'm curious. I don't know.
We're too damn amateurs here. I
No, but
don't
I'm
know.
saying there's stuff that's on record that you could see if maybe there's a contract that he has
I
or
mean,
something.
I'm like Gene. I'll Google and schmoogle and stuff like that, but other than that, I don't have any connections. If I had connections, dude, I would have already contacted the connections. And if anybody out there can get me Eric Singer's cell phone number, send it on over to me. I'll make the phone call that nobody else wants to make. He won't tell me anything, but
He won't answer the phone probably.
dude don't do interviews that I can find anywhere. Like
He's not a look at me kind of guy.
he's
He's never
not a
been.
look at me correct. He absolutely isn't. But there's something here that I hope they either fix because let's be honest, if it gets announced tomorrow that Eric Singer is coming to Kiss Army Storms Vegas, we'll make mention of it and then it'll go away. And everybody will make mention of it and then it'll go away and we'll forget about it in a couple weeks.
Well, remember,
It's that news cycle thing that
well, remember,
everybody talks about.
remember that article we watched about, or the video we watched with Bruce, and he basically put out there on Front Street that Eric was hurt. The way things went down, he made
Yeah,
me.
but
You know what? I
you
had my
keep
run
but you keep that's like the third time you brought that up, but
because it
that
happened. Because it
but
happened. He had bad feelings.
that was back in 95.
If somebody wrongs me, I don't ever forget that. Maybe it's because I'm
No,
Italian.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, well, that's that's probably a family thing also, because I'm with you, but
I'll forgive, but I'll never forget. No, 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 no.
Eric has been back in the band. He did another like 19 years in the band. So he did the 19 years, and all of a sudden, now he's gonna have hurt feelings. Nah, I would think if he had hurt feelings, they would have either addressed them hurt feelings when they asked him to come
Yeah, you're
back in
probably
the
right, but
band.
something's going on. Something's going on.
Something is most definitely going
I
on.
mean,
There,
the article to me is the title of that article should be Captain Obvious. Why did you not mention Eric in that group?
yep. And there's a couple other things that we'll get to. When this was announced, the first thing that came to people's mind is that Kiss hung it up after the end of the road tour. But to be fair, I don't recall you or Gene saying you'd never perform again in any capacity, just that you wouldn't tour. What is it about Kiss that every time you guys do anything, everybody's imaginations runs wild? Does that come with the territory of the band? Paul responds, well, it's flattering. I mean, it's either very positive in terms of people's reaction or venomously negative. And to the people who want us to go away, we pick and choose when and if we go away. And for the other people, they're thrilled with any prospect of us doing something. Now, I agree with the interviewer 100%. I've never seen anything where Gene and Paul said, we are retiring. Quite to the contrary. I think it's pretty obvious. Gene is not retiring. He was touring with a solo band 3 months after the last show. As far as them deciding when and if they retire, hell yes, they earn the right to decide. And I don't think you're ever going to see. The one thing I don't think you're ever going to see is Gene and Paul are never going to leave the spotlight. So Paul is going to continue doing podcasts and interviews.
Right.
Gene, to me, I think you're going to drag Gene's dead body off a stage.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Well, you heard what Gene's statement was, and I love it. When you get to when you're getting close to the finish line, do you slow down or speed up? And he's got a great philosophy. He's getting up in age, and he's going to do whatever he can until there's nothing left.
Absolutely. The interviewer asks, among the roster of artists playing at the Vegas event is Bruce Kulick, a key cog in Kiss's non-makeup era. Seeing as you and Gene won't be performing in makeup, will we see Bruce join you on stage? Paul answers, well, Bruce has been at our events before, and he's a storied part of the history and our past foundation. But I don't see any plans for him to play with us. But that's me speaking at the moment. Now, let me go on. But as a rule, we've had Bruce there before. It's just another way to celebrate the history of the band. And regardless of whether he plays with us or another band, his contribution to KISS is huge. I'm gonna call bullshit because I've seen video of Bruce getting up on stage with KISS at a KISS cruise. There is no way that I think that KISS is going to get on the stage. Of course, it's going to be without makeup. Of course, it's going to be without costumes. Of course, it's going to be without a whole stage show. But they're going to get up there. Bruce Kulick's going to be there, and they are not going to have him come up for at least one song. No, don't buy it. I, I, I literally, I don't think it's possible. The only way that that's possible is if Bruce is not speaking to Gene and Paul because of the end of the road, Madison Square Garden, which I doubt it, but could be possible.
That's not his lane. He doesn't. He
It,
never, he
it
never takes
it's
that lane.
it's not, but that's the only way that I see Bruce not getting up there and them not asking him to get up there because again, Hooligan Nation, if I'm wrong, call me out in the comments below. But we're really, me personally, I'm there to see pretty much everything other than Gene and Paul. And that's not a knock on Gene and Paul. That's because Gene and Paul are expected to be there.
Mm.
I'm there because I want to see Bruce, and I want to see Bruce get on stage with Gene and Paul. And
I think the majority of Kiss fans are looking for other
right,
things.
I want to see all the other bells and whistles and hoopla and all the surprise announcements and blah blah blah.
Hey,
And honestly, and we've said this 100 times before. I, I, right now, maybe the top of the show for me right now, if we're to believe everything that's being told us, is Tommy Thayer getting up with Black and Blue and playing with Black and Blue, which I think it's been said that he will, but that's the highlight right now. Now,
mm,
you tell me that Bruce is getting up with Gene and Paul, which I'm 99% sure is happening. But you tell me that, and that goes to the top of the list. You announce Ace Frehley is going to be there, that goes to the top of the list because there's no way I believe, just like Bruce, that Ace is not going to get up there and play at least one song.
if I'm
You
putting my order in, I'm going to say I want Bruce to go up there, do Tears Are Falling, and Who Wants to Be Lonely, and then hang out and watch. You know what I mean? Like I'd like to see him do those two songs with them
right?
acoustically. Nice.
You're not going to get acoustically. Everybody keeps going with this acoustic thing. Like you're not going to get acoustic. They made sure to put it. Who was it? Was it Dan the Man? I think it was Dan the Man. He it's a little crazy. It's a little left field, but it's not that crazy. His idea was they should get up there with everybody. I think his idea was the four original members
It was.
and record another acoustic album. Now, off the top of my head, I don't have the sales for Unplugged, but I'm going to guess that the sales were pretty good because that is a damn good acoustic album. It is.
Yeah,
I if you told me, and I don't really want the just the four original members. I don't. I've said this before. I loved the two drum sets. I loved that. I would have no problem at all with every living band member. We know Vinny's not going to get invited and he won't be on there, but everybody else on the stage to do an acoustic set, I if that happened,
count me in.
that's a dream come true. Anyway, next, the interviewer asks, "How about Ace? He's performed on Kiss Cruises before, but he doesn't appear to be on the roster for the Vegas event. Are there any plans in the works for Ace to be a part of this, or did he decline?" Pay attention, kids. We always invite or open the door to past members, but I also respect their declining or unrealistic required requests or demands. So, no, I don't believe I would be fairly certain that you won't see, the two original guys. And that's nothing new either. I feel like he's trying to skirt around. I mean, he said things like, no, but he followed it up with I don't believe. And he said, I would be fairly certain that you won't see. I don't know. I mean, I feel I say this all the time, but I feel like a broken record with certain things. Like none of these guys ever get interviewed and don't poke Peter and
Hmm.
Ace. Unrealistic required requests or demands. I don't know.
Well, I mean, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. The thing that I find even more enticing or interesting is that, you know, Peter was like the epitome of retired. Like there was nothing coming from him. Now all of a sudden he's got an album coming out, so it makes it very obvious that he could definitely be there in some capacity.
There's no one can come up with a better event to promote his new record than that.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's no other event. So what's he gonna do at 79 years old? He's gonna go on a tour? I don't believe it.
Honestly, it'd be bad business for Peter. He should be like, listen, guys, you don't have to pay me much. Just let me be part of it.
No, I mean, look, I think with
No, I'm
Peter,
saying it's great PR.
but I
Hey
think
guys,
it's,
remember I'm putting an album out. You know.
but I think it's different with Peter. It's probably a little more difficult, but Ace is touring. So whatever Ace's appearance fee is to do a show is what you pay him.
Hmm.
And I have a feeling, and Ace, if you're watching us, thank you. I'll stop by and drop you off a bun cake or something. But Ace, if I'm wrong, give me a ring and we'll talk about it. But it seems to me like, let's say Ace has an appearance fee. Let's just say it's $50,000, and I have no idea what it is. I can see Pop House offering Ace a $50,000 appearance fee. And it's not out of the realm of possibility for Ace to say, "What are you paying Gene and Paul? Because I want
Mhm.
that." And that I think, no, it's no disrespect to Ace. I love Ace. I'm practically neighbors with Ace. Well, I'm not that close, but I'm close enough. But if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's usually a duck. And this sounds like there's something like there's something stopping all of this. And in most cases, when it comes to Kiss and it comes to the four original members, Peter always likes to say respect. And I love you, Peter, also, but you need to change that word respect into money because what he means is money. Oh, they disrespected me. No, they paid you less money than Ace Frehley. And they didn't tell you that because you would react just the way you reacted.
The more I think about it, the more you got to look at it like they don't look at it like we do as fans. It's nostalgic to us. To them, it's a business arrangement, and I don't think that they're warm and fuzzy. Maybe they were for the acoustic thing, but I think after things went bad again, I think that it's a business thing. I think it's more. It's not as a. It's like for us, it's nostalgic. I don't think that they have that lane as anywhere close to the level that we do as fans.
I 100% agree with you. And again, we are fans. They are not. They are in the music business. But Kiss Army Storms Vegas, rumor has it, is nowhere near sold out. If you add Ace Frehley and Peter Criss, is it sold out in 24 hours?
Yep.
Absolutely. Sold out in 24 hours. I would be surprised if it wasn't sold out in less than 24 hours.
Well, I think too, you got to look at especially the Kiss fans that started in the beginning. They probably look at Kiss in general as it's something on the shelf that gets dusty, that's been sitting there for a while that they don't. Maybe they'll pick up once in a while and they'll listen to. But for the most part, maybe some of those folks, their fandom is retired. All of a sudden, it like comes alive when you're doing something that's going to involve all four of them again. It's like waking up a sleeping giant.
I can go with that. Um, Next question from the interviewer. What makes Kiss unique is that the band doesn't play by the rules of conventional rock groups, a template you set a long time ago. So, do you see Kiss Army Storms Vegas as a yearly event in lieu of the Kiss Cruise? And if
Should be.
so, do you see yourselves performing in makeup again at these types of events? And Paul says, let me just say that I've never called it Kiss Army Storms Vegas. Now more than ever, it deserves to be called a Kiss Cruise. And that goes against, some people's definition of a cruise, but everyone who has any questions will soon find out that it is indeed a Kiss Cruise in Vegas. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not the brightest bulb, and I'm the first one to tell you that. But that is confusing as hell. It, it
At least talking
seems,
about the pomp and circumstance that takes place on a cruise is going to be taking place on land.
but
Yeah.
one week, last week, last week as of us recording, Gene says this is a Kiss Army thing. We are just guests. And this week, Paul says, I've never called it Kiss Army Storms Vegas and goes back to the Kiss Cruise thing. So I have a couple theories with this. Would you like to hear them?
Sure.
If I'm right, Paul's a genius.
There's definitely some genius there. He's done a lot of good stuff. So there's definitely some genius in Paul.
Kiss Army Storms Vegas is not selling as well as they expected. So Paul is maneuvering and going away from Kiss Army Storms Vegas, and he's telling all the people for the past 12 years that have gone to the Kiss Cruise, this is the Kiss Cruise that all you people
Mm.
went to. This is a Kiss Cruise on land. So forget about the Kiss Army Storms Vegas because that's not selling well. This is a Kiss cruise. So just come
Mm.
pay for it. I look there, I got nothing else. I mean, all of this is theory and fantasy land, but in the history, in the 50-year history of this band, if you take Gene's, was it an article or a podcast? I think it was a podcast that Gene was on last week. And you put that right next to the interview that we're talking about now, it's like two different worlds. It it's like Paul and Gene haven't spoken at least since this whole Kiss Army Storms Vegas thing came out. The left hand has no idea what the right hand is doing, and the tail is wagging the dog.
But them doing totally different lanes makes you question it from two different ends.
I got to tell you something. I'm going to tell you this, and I probably shouldn't tell you this on air. I probably should have told you this beforehand. So, everybody out there in Hooligan Nation land, if you guys could just turn around for a second and mute your television so I can talk. I can talk to our little Rocky over here privately. Thanks. We spent a lot of money, and I'm getting a little worried. I am getting a little worried that this is an out of control shit show that nobody knows what the hell is going on.
I don't. I mean, listen. Have Kiss ventured into territories that have flopped before? Yeah. Do I
I'm not
think
worried about the flop. I'm worried about the fact that the Kiss Corporation, the Kiss brand, has always had defined roles. So if you go way back to the 70s, it was very much obvious that, at least it was to me, it was very much obvious that Gene was in charge. Gene Gene was the one that was in charge of the business. And look, Paul was too, but it always Gene was the face of Kiss. Go into the 80s, take the makeup off. Gene wants to go be a movie star. It shifted to Paul. Paul was in charge of everything, it seems. Of the business, of the music, of everything. Now you throw Pop House in, and I really expected this to be a much smoother transition. You make this announcement and you put a picture of Gene, Paul, Eric, and Tommy, and then it disappears. And then Tommy gets announced to be playing, but there's no talk of Eric. And now Paul is calling it a Kiss Cruise on ground. Gene is saying that we're guests. This is a Kiss Army thing. Who knows what?
I just
I
I don't I listen. The one thing that I'm positive of is that Gene and Paul. I know Pop House makes it a little bit different, but Gene and Paul have this has been their baby, and they've coddled it all these years. For me to think that the two of them don't understand, like don't have a clue, like does it sound like they're not in sync? Yeah, but everything they do is calculating. I wouldn't be surprised if like good cop bad cop, like I said, like Gene's kind of downplaying it while Paul is pumping it up, so it makes everybody try to
well,
guess.
let me be the first to tell both of them if that's what they're doing, it's not working for me. It's having negative effects. It's not exciting me. It's making me worried because to me, Paul's going left, Gene's going right, and that's never a good thing under any circumstance for any band, for any business, for any event. Everybody needs to be on the same page from the beginning. It it does not seem that way. If they're doing this on purpose and this is the plan, I think it's a mistake right now. Now, you can always write, here comes the joke, here comes the Gene Simmons joke. You can always right the ship, even if it's on land. The the interviewer asks, ultimately, be it on the water or on land in Vegas, these events are a great way to celebrate the Kiss. You know what? I'm cutting that out. We don't need summer start. Yeah, we don't need that shit. We don't need the end of this. It's all about that. And we're 54 minutes in.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got a little bit of fluff and bullshit in there a little bit, but we're deep. Any closing thoughts?
Listen, my closing thoughts are we're going to be there. I'm excited. And if it doesn't live up to my expectations, which personally, my expectations are pretty high because I all this is smoke and mirrors for the most part to me. I believe that it's going to be good regardless of how it's played out. And if not, I'll go do some gambling. We'll go check out the other stuff that's Kiss related in Vegas, and it'll be a good trip regardless. But I'm excited because I know I'm going to be there, and all the fluff and stuff that's going to be up and down throughout. I one thing I really have faith in is that Gene and Paul, at the end of the day, kind of know what's going on behind the scenes. They're calculating what they allow out to people. They know how to play it pretty well. So I'd be surprised if Gene and Paul don't know what's going on from a business sense. Do I think they hang out every week? No, but I think from a business sense, I think that they've always, even when Gene was like lost, didn't you say that Gene was still kind of meeting with people in the business part of it? He was still kind of involved.
Yeah.
Like the business part of it, they've never lost that link. I think that that's maybe the biggest part of their bond.
Well, Hooligan Nation, uh, tell us what you think because I'm on one side of the fence. I really believe that Kiss Army Storms Vegas may be spiraling out of control when both mommy and daddy aren't getting along and aren't on the same page. Mommy being Jean is saying one thing, and daddy being Paul is saying something completely different. The Rock over here, he thinks that this is all shtick, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
So tell us what you think. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms, please leave us a review. And if you just found us, check out our past episodes. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel and you like this episode, please consider hitting the like button just like him and leaving us a comment. Hit the subscribe button just like him so you don't miss any future episodes and check out these episodes right here. As always, if you made it this far, thank you for supporting us and don't forget, if it's too loud, you're too old. Peace out, Hooligan Nation.